Hello everybody, and welcome to the YouTube channel of Skip Allen. Today we're going to talk about stroke attributes. I don't see many people use stroke attributes, and I don't hear much talk about them, and I'm not quite sure why, because I think they're very powerful. But before we get involved with what they are, let's talk about the image that I have here on the screen. I did this image, it's probably been about a year ago, in a class that Tim Shelbourne had at his the Artist's Quarter. And we were doing portraits from scratch. And the way we set it up was that you had a reference image and you put some guidelines on the reference image, 3 or 4, and you did the same thing on the canvas that you were going to start painting on. And so if I wanted to draw this eye, which looks a little funny to me, I would have had a line going through the middle of it, say a vertical line going through the middle of it, and it would be, like at 2 inches or whatever marking it was on the ruler, and then you would have a horizontal line going through the eye. And so that was on the reference image, and then in the target you would do the same thing. So you would have the same point that you could then begin to draw around, and it would help you locate different areas on your canvas, and then you would draw freehand the image freehand, sorry. Now, we also worked in grayscale, which I think is really cool, and it's a great way of working. Instead of painting with color, painting with grayscale. And I know a lot of people will paint in color, then they will quickly change their image to grayscale to check their values or their tones, and then switch back to color. What he did in the end was he added a layer using color, and then when you painted on that layer using color, it would change the color, the grayscale, to match the color that you were painting with and retain the value. Now, at this point, I need to tell you that he was working in Photoshop. This was a Photoshop class, and when I take Photoshop classes, sometimes, if it's possible, and this one was possible, I will switch to Painter and use Painter. So in my case, color didn't seem to work very well, but Colorize does, okay? And I'm going to tell you why, because stroke attributes are similar to that technique. Okay, so let's go over here and talk about stroke attributes. First, my brush that I've selected is in the oils category. It's bristle oils. You can use almost any brush. You just have to make sure that it can be used for stroke attributes. I did take the canvas. Image was on the canvas, and I selected the canvas, select all, and then using my layer adjuster tool and holding down the Alt or Option key, you click in the middle, and that will duplicate your canvas layer. Now, I wanted to do that because I want to protect my image. I didn't want to destroy the image at all. I can just work up there on a copy of the image. If everything works out fine, I can drop it to the canvas. Okay, so with this bristle oil, if I select a color from over here in the general color palette, and let's get something kind of bright, and we come over here and paint on this layer, and by the way, that's one of the important things, is that with stroke attributes, you're going to paint on the layer that has the pigment that you want to change, okay? You don't paint above it, you paint on the actual layer. So with the bristle oils, and I paint, that's not going to do me any good because it's going to cover everything up, right? So let's see what stroke attributes does. Now, this is the panel for stroke attributes. Stroke attributes is a brush control, and if you go to Window, Brush Control Panels, you will see stroke attributes right up here at the top. Now, this is in Painter X3. If you're in Painter 12, stroke attributes are new to Painter 12. If you're in Painter 12, they will be included in the general brush control palettes. The palettes from 12 have changed in X3. They've tried to simplify things and keep one function to each panel. So that's where you'll find stroke attributes. So with the bristle oils, if I click on stroke attributes, I have the down arrow here, which when I click on the down arrow, I will see all of the composite methods that we have possible. And here's Colorize, and here's Color. And we're going to talk about the differences. But first, use stroke attributes on default, 100%, and it paints just like it would paint normally. That's not going to help me at all. But if I go to Colorize, now what it's going to do is it's going to colorize the image with this orange color, but remain true to the value. Okay, so let's do this. Before I start painting, I will take a dropper tool and select right in there. And that shows me that the value right in that little spot in here is about 58. Now you have to get the same spot each time. So now I'm getting 71. Let's see if I can find about right there. I got as close to the line as I could. So 60 would be the value. And if I come over here to this lighter color, then I've got 207, 211. So you can see it's kind of a range when you hit that, but 211 to about 60. All right, so I've got Colorize. I want to come back over here and get the same color, and I start to paint. Now you see what I mean? You've got the color actually changes, but you're retaining the same value. Okay, so now if I come over here and click in here, notice that it's 208. That's really close. And then if I click on that little dot right inside there, see it's 56. And there you go, 61. So you can see the value is very, very close. Now, let's take that off, and we'll come down to Color. And we'll try the same thing in Color. You can already tell it looks different. We do have value showing. It is coloring the image. But if I click on this brightest part, notice that I can only get up to 121 in the value. So it's considerably less than what I was getting, and it's nowhere near what the original value was. And if I click on this little dark spot right there, I'm getting 76, which is higher than, I probably am not getting the point again. All right, there you go. I think I was on it then. That's about 36. Now I got 61 there. But I believe that it's a much lower value than you would normally get. Now, if someone is using Photoshop, color is the way to go. It's the only one that you've got. And I believe that most Photoshop users that come over to Painter will wind up using color because that's what they're used to. But I'm saying that Colorize will give you a much better solution. Okay. So what else is going on here? Well, we're in Colorize now, and I put this back down. And notice how that's really a bright kind of color. Well, you don't have to stay bright. I mean, for one thing, my color changed considerably. Let's go back to here, put this on. You know, the color would be pretty much the same on the page as long as my hue is the same. It doesn't really matter where my color is. Well, that mattered. What you don't want to do is get it grayed. There we go. So if you have, let me rephrase that so I don't make it confusing. If I select the same color and I put it up here, it's going to look the same if I change the color, as long as I'm staying with the same hue, as long as that I don't get too gray with it. So if I bring it down to this darker color, you see that looks almost the same as if when I had the brighter color. Okay, so what it's saying to us is that it knows the hue we're in, and it's selecting the values that it should paint with. Okay, now if I do take the color, though, to something that is grayer, you know, we begin to get into the grayscale, then it's going to look very different. It will have a muted kind of softer look. You won't get quite as bright as you were before. So that's an important thing to consider. But also, if we are at the bright color that's given us this, and we reduce the opacity, then we're going to soften the color again. And it's really opacity that is going to help most in trying to colorize a grayscale object. My goodness, we're at 10 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to come back up to 100%. I'm going to grab this color here, which is kind of a neutral gray. And let's begin to see what happens when, let's say, this image is finished. And really, it's not. I got to a certain point, and then I didn't finish the image. But it's close enough. And actually, after I looked at it after, so long, I kind of liked it. But if I come in here and begin to paint with that color, that sort of neutral color, look how much brighter it is on our model's face. But you see that it's bringing in color, but keeping the value of the image. And that's really, really important and quite useful. So I'm just going to go over the whole thing here to show you how this looks. Okay, now this is, well, most of you would look at this and say, yuck, I don't want to do that. And of course, when you do something and you've got grayscale around it, it's going to look kind of odd anyway. But the thing is, you don't want to put just a single color here. You want to paint with this, the concept of stroke attributes. So let's say I wanted to put in some green tones, let's say, or I tell you what, let's put in this purple over here. You know how if you really, when you're painting portraits, a lot of times you want to have color showing in the image. Well, you could come in here and just begin to add some of this color. Now, that looks a little strong to me. So I wouldn't want to stay with it at this level. So I've got two options here to go. What I would do is I would drop my opacity down to about 40%. And what that's going to do is it's going to let the orange show through more so that my purple is like tinting the orange. I'm still getting some purple, and it looks nice. At least I think it does. I love seeing extra color on the faces of portraits. So I could come in here with this purple and begin to colorize what's on the image. And see, I'm actually colorizing the image, the face, but I'm also it's being affected by the orange underneath. Now, suppose I want to put a little green in, or this sort of brown color, and you really can't look at this to determine what the color is going to be, because see, if I paint with that over the bright part, it's a kind of a light yellow. All right, so let's put a little of this in, and it's just going to give me, see how it just kind of brightens and gives a little bit more color to the image. Now, I think this is a little bit zombie-like. But you're beginning to see where I'm going with this. Okay, so let's take a little blue, and we're going to leave it at the same place, and I'm going to put a little blue in there. Oops, that one's a little dark there. So I'm going to drop the opacity a little more and put that color in here and try to bring it around into this nice shadow here. So now we've got a little of that blue in there. And I'm kind of going willy-nilly with this and just adding color to be adding color because this is more for demonstration purposes. Now, I think she needs a little pink to her, to the way she looks. So I'm going to go into this kind of grayed rosy color, and I'm going to leave it at 25% right now just to test. And what I think is going to happen is I'm going to bring in a little bit of a rose tint to her cheek. See, that's kind of nice. And if I bring it down into these other colors, it's just going to affect those colors and bring a little bit of rose to it. I'm going to get some of that orangey yellow off up there at the top. Okay, you see how this is going? It's really pretty neat. Now I'm going to take the same color and I'll bring the opacity up to about 50%. And I want to bring the size of my, actually what I'm going to do is go up to my advanced controls and come to size, and I'm going to bring my min size all the way down. And that's going to allow the brush to go from a point to a bigger size just with pressure. So after I've done that, I can come in here and begin to put a little rose into her lips. Now, you know, I could put lipstick on if I wanted to, but I don't know. I think she's not really so made up. But see how much nicer that little touch of rose could be? Now, if I increase the opacity, then I can put a little more in and see it gets much brighter. I don't want to be quite that bright. You have to be careful because if you make a mark and then you come up and you make a mark on top of it and then another, each time it's going to get a little bit darker as you go. So let's put a little more in here. And I notice that I'm kind of hanging around the outside edge, the upper lip, and I'm leaving the bottom pretty open there. I think I like that pink, and I'm going to come back to about 27%, and I'm going to bring a little more rose into the cheek, and I need to take that yellow off that nose a bit. And I think probably I want to come down a little bit and put a little blue in here. Okay, so now let's go back up and we'll stay with that blue, and we can begin to color that eye a bit. And I want her to have a fairly strong blue eye. Like that. Anyway, you know, we've been playing a long time here, and I didn't mean to do it that long. I just wanted to show you how you can work with stroke attributes with a grayed image. You know, it could be maybe it's a charcoal sketch or whatever, you know, if you're working with grayscale. And as you look in, you can begin to see all this lovely color that you're putting in. And you don't have to worry about your values. You know, you can use as many colors in an area, and the value still remains the same as long as the value of each color is identical. And that's what this does. It allows you to keep your values the same. And that really is nice. But see, as you move away, you can tell she's looking pretty good. And, you know, again, if I came up here Let's make this a little bit bigger. I really should stop. We're at 19 minutes. I will stop in just a second. All right, see, this would start to make a beautiful yellow for her hair. Now, it's pretty bright. It's at 80%. But let's say we stay at that brightness and we begin to put this hair in like that. Now, that, it does look a little bit brighter than I think we probably need. So I could have brought down the opacity when I put it in, or I can come in with another color, like, again, this purple, and drop that opacity down. And as I begin to come in and paint, see, I'm going to drop that, the way that color begins to look and is affected here. And we'll put that purple down under there. And actually, I'm going to grab a little blue and bring it under here. I'm not too sure. This doesn't look resolved to me down here, so I probably would need to go back to the original and take a look at it and see what's going on. But notice how the sharpness of the hair, it drops just with that little bit of purple. And so you could use, it might be purple is the way you want to go. It may be that, we need to put in some of this sort of burgundy type color. Now, look at that, just how a little bit of burgundy begins to change the color and make it look so different from the way it was. And trust me, when you finish an image like this, it's going to look a lot better than what it looks like with grayscale. But again, because the grayscale is affecting your color so much. But look at that. You just get some really beautiful colors going. Okay, I'm going to stop it here. I hope this was of interest to you. Do try Colorize. Oh, I know what I need to do. I want to show you one other thing. Sorry. I'm going to open up a watercolor portrait that I did. And this one is not grayscale. And you don't really have to have grayscale. You can work directly on color. So, for instance, if I took this image and I've got that color, that neutral sort of color, and I start putting it over here, you see how that's beginning to change the overall look of the color? I could put it down here, and look at that blue just changes into this real nice sort of purpley kind of color. So you don't have to work just with grayscale. You can definitely work with any kind of color with this. And so with this watercolor, which tends to have, real dull color to it, you could come in and really pop some of these colors. And again, it depends on what your stroke opacity is, on how strong this actually becomes. But what I'm trying to show you is that you don't have to work just on grayscale. Coming into an image that's already been colored, you can really make some interesting changes to what you see on the image. Okay, that's all. All righty, hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.